Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of my audience. Something that makes you special as an audience and something that makes me special as a host, something that we all have in common, is that we are emotionally intelligent. We can appreciate the fact that we have different backgrounds, different beliefs, different opinions, but instead of getting offended or threatened by someone else's beliefs, we embrace that and we accept that, not as our own, but we accept that person. And I love that. I love celebrating that diversity. Now, I've recently stumbled into a new series. I didn't mean to, but I did a video talking about how our ethnicity can predict our accent, which that's a tame subject. But then I got into something that would, maybe on Twitter would be more controversial. You couldn't talk about it. But on this channel we can, because again, you're emotionally intelligent and so am I. So then I thought, well, how does our ethnicity predict our religious beliefs? How does it predict our political views? Well, so now that that trilogy is done, there's still one more thing I want to talk about, because I was thinking, well, what's as controversial as politics and religion, but that we can get away with talking? I'll tell you what, to me, here's what's this is what is equally controversial as talking about politics and religion, but we can get away with here. Eating habits, our dietary needs, however we need to say that. But specifically, I'm a vegan. And you accept me as a vegan. You're not trying to tell me, oh, you should go eat beef and pork and you should be real. No. You're emotionally intelligent, so you accept me as I am as a vegan. I've been a vegan for over 4.5 years. I've been a vegetarian for nearly 6. I've been kosher for actually Thanksgiving, so I'm a couple weeks away from it being 9 years that I've been kosher. So here's what I was thinking. And I know I've already made a video talking about, is it perhaps that my Sephardic Jewish great-grandmother and my Middle Eastern great-grandfather had something to do with me ultimately being kosher. But I want to back the camera up even more and just try to theorize here. Is there any chance the fact that I am so strict on what I eat or what I don't eat, does that go even beyond those great-grandparents? Is my DNA a prediction that I would eventually be a man who would be so strict on my diet? So just to be clear, I think it's important that I tell you this, and of course, again, you're emotionally intelligent, so you know that I'm not trying to convert you to believe, like, I don't need you to believe what I believe, but I just want to look at this and try to see if there's a theory behind this, okay? So, I don't eat meat at all, and it started out by me not eating pork or shellfish, which I think is a nod to my genealogy, my great-grandparents who I never met, where I was 2 years old when I met my Middle Eastern descent grandfather, but he remembered me, he met me, but I don't remember him. But either way, I think it's no coincidence that I ended up becoming kosher, 9 years ago. I think that's no coincidence. But the fact that, just think about this. Obviously, I'm an American, and part of American culture, especially for men, what's seen as masculinity as an American male, and I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm just saying this is how it is in America. To be seen as a masculine man, it's this whole concept of like, you got to shoot a gun and hunt animals and kill animals and then eat the meat, and you got to love bacon, you got to love sausage, you got to love beef, you got to love pork, and you got to love red meat. And that is identified with masculinity here in America. So imagine to be a man who is, I consider myself masculine enough. I'm married. I have 2 kids. That's pretty masculine, isn't it? To do such things. So with that being said, I'm a masculine man. However, I'm countercultural in that not only do I not eat pork or red meat, and have I not for many years, but I don't eat any animal products at all. No eggs, no milk, no cheese. And yet here I exist. I am a paradox. Because I'm telling you, most vegans in America are not men. Most of them are women. And typically, if you do find a man who's a vegan, he's very, very liberal. And I'm not a particularly liberal kind of guy. I'm a conservative Christian that happens to be a vegan. So that's even stranger than anything. I'm not the stereotypical vegan is what I'm trying to say. And what I want to theorize today, does that have anything to do with my ethnicity deep down? Because here's the thing. And this weekend I'll be going to my parents' house and I'm going to interview my mama more about this. But I want to talk to her, even though she wasn't raised Jewish or Middle Eastern, there are certain things that I think have been passed down from generation to generation that she got little glimpses of without ever being told, here's why we believe this, here's why we do this. So I believe it is, in theory, possible that I was predestined to become a vegan, even though it's very countercultural for a male American. So let's just break down my ethnicity again, as I guess we need to in many of these videos. So consider that my dad is mostly Dutch German, which when I think of a Dutch German or Dutch, I think of a man or a person who's going to eat a lot of meat. Sausage, pork, beef. That's what I think of when I think of German people. They are proud of their sausage and their meat. Okay? So that's a good part of me. That's a big part of my ethnicity. That's somewhere around 75% according to the test of my dad is that. So that makes part of that for me. Like I think it was 37% German Dutch, okay? But so much of me is my mom's traits. So that's where we've got Central American, and I think of people who are having to live off the land, eating corn and their crops. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking, and then we've got the Sephardic Jewish grandmother. And when I think of Israeli cuisine, which I understand that they weren't necessarily eating Israeli cuisine in Spain or Italy, wherever they were. But the point was, I think of Israeli food today, I think of hummus, and I think of things that are very vegan friendly. Middle Eastern, well, I understand they eat a lot of beef because I have friends that are Muslim. But also, they don't eat pork or shellfish or things like that. So even there, we've got a lot of restrictions going on in my ethnicity. So I think it's interesting. Here's my theory, and then I'm out of here for this video. Imagine the average man. So let's say that my dad married someone who was mostly the same thing as he was. From maybe even British descent, where it's common that you eat a lot of meat, and that's just how it is. Imagine that offspring, that wouldn't be me, but that offspring would be more likely to be all about eating beef and pork and bacon, all that stuff. But instead, my dad, back in 1977, married, and being a Southerner, married someone who was ethnically diverse. And I think that there's a good chance because of that kind of changed the dynamics of who I was. It meant that I wasn't going to just be another Southern male that just eats a bunch of meat and identifies that and has part of his identity. Instead, he married that woman who is my mother, who you will see in the other videos, and especially this weekend I'll make a few more with her. Created this offspring where I'm half Southern and German, but I'm also half not Southern, and I'm half Middle Eastern and Jewish and Mexican and Central American, all these other things. I think there's a good chance that my ethnic background led me to break the mold, to not be another guy who's I gotta eat my pork and my bacon and my shellfish and my bacon and beef, yeah. That's not part of my identity. My identity is being exceptional, thinking outside of the box. And I don't think that without my ethnicity, it'd be that way. I think it all trickles down. There's that butterfly effect that creates an open-minded American man who realizes, hey, I don't even have to eat any kind of animal product and I'll be healthy. And by the way, look at me. I'm not withering away. I'm getting all the nutrients I need. So let's discuss this. I think this is very fascinating. Tell me, maybe you have a story that's similar where you can tell that your ethnic background ultimately predicted what you will and will not eat, maybe even aside from your religious beliefs or something like that. I want to know if anybody else can relate. I know this is a longer video, but I think there's a lot to unpack here. So please tell me what you think about this. I want to hear your stories. I want to share this with you.